Hello, welcome back to another Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report. As you can see here, we're playing a nice game of Ogre Kingdoms and Warriors of Chaos. What we're trying to do here is fine-tune our list a little bit, built around these ETC rules that we play tournaments in. And so we're just playing more or less the same list. I think we'll start to change it up, but the idea is to play around and see what really works. So during the setup, I get to start setting up first, and from my left to right, I've got the Mournfang with the Gleaming Pennant, an Iron Blaster, a unit of 5 Bulls with the Butcher, a Maw, and a larger unit of Iron Guts with my Tyrant and my BSB. And I started setting up on the far right flank and sort of baited him over there, and then ended up packing everything in this corner. So this is pretty much the meat of my army is over on this side. I'm pretty happy with the Tyrant build. I'm a little not so certain about the other Trickster shard, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. In the middle of my setup deployment, I've got 5 Man-Eaters with Poison, Stubborn, full command, 3 extra hand weapons, including the champion, and then my Butcher's Beasts with the Dispel Scroll, and 2 units of Noblar Trappers, and then my 2 Saber Tusks over here on the corner. And I started out setting stuff up this way, and then was able to just pile everything over into the corner. There's a few terrain things, but they never came into play. Sorry about the blurry picture, but opposite me, the Warriors set up from his left flank. He has a Chaos Lord and a unit of 19 Warriors. He's got the Sword of Anti-Heroes. He's Nurgle, so he's really hard to hit. I know he's got a 4-up ward save and a great armor save. I'm not certain if he has the Armor of Destiny, but I think it's the Talisman of Preservation. And he's just got a bunch of stuff. Maybe can skip his first wound or something like that. The unit itself has +1 movement. He's got a Nurgle level 2 in a big unit of Nurgle Marauders. He's got 2 chariots. He's trying out his Chaos Spawn, which is just fun, and it's Jeffrey's first time playing a Chaos Spawn, so the random movement was new to him. And he's got his Hounds. They're going to Vanguard out. That's a forest that would do wounds if he ends his turn in there, but he does not. He's got some Marauder Horsemen here, a Slaughter Brute, which, yeah, maybe it's fluffy, but the model's just, I don't know. There's a lot of beef against it, saying the model's too cheesy, but painted like this, I think it looks really rad. He put his BSB on a Juggernaut in with the Skull Crushers with the Banner of Eternal Flame on the Skull Crusher, so that's a pretty tough unit. And this is an overview of his whole setup. You can see here what pretty clearly to me early on was a big problem. Not only is the anvil of his army set up all the way opposite mine, but he's not able to have his BSB and his general's leadership bubble encompassing the majority of his troops. So he's just out of, I think I won deployment pretty handily, and I was really happy with this. He's trying to this new list. He's got no Hell Cannon, only level 2. So that has some, pros and cons, and we talk some things through afterwards. And I'll kind of conclude with some thoughts about that today. But he Vanguards up. He's the only one with Vanguard. And he brings up his Hounds and his Marauder Horsemen. And these are the big beasties sitting in behind. Just really cool and kind of fun. It was dark. We're playing after dark, so the lighting wasn't awesome. Hence some blurry pictures. But he brings his Vanguard up to really worry about my bigger units, and particularly my Mournfang. So I win the turn to go first, even though he was done deploying first, I think. I can't remember, but I win turn to go first. So I don't move up too radically with my Saber Tusks. I'm trying to be a little bit more conservative with them and not just throw them away. I cheat up the Noblars so that if he comes between this forest and the hill, he'll have to come through 2 units of trappers, and really focusing on his left flank, so my right flank there. Otherwise, I draw a nice little line here with everyone except for my Bulls with the Butcher, just to keep them out, able to charge, threaten his Marauder Horsemen and Hounds, just kind of out there, but otherwise everyone else is not stuck going left or right, but the idea is that they can kind of go any which way, and pretty solid, strong group there. I'm happy with this so far. So Warriors turn 1, they just come rushing up, particularly on this flank, and we talked about some of this afterwards too. I think Jeffrey got a little caught up with too much going on this one side, and he had his skull crushers behind a barrier, so he'd have to take Dangerous Train if he charged over it, which is just something to be cognizant of. And he's got himself march blocked with his own units, so I'm not in any hurry to clear up that unit. And on his right flank, he moves forward, just comes forward as far as he can. He's got a couple spells to cast, but basically their minus makes him, my guy's -1 to hit, and gives someone regeneration. So up till now, he can't actually do anything with his casting, and so having just one level 2 maybe needs a little bit more oomph to threaten. And with them so far away, it wasn't much of a threat. So Ogre's turn 2. I think this one through, and I charge my bulls at the what's it called? The Chaos Spawn. It's a long charge, but not that hard to make. And then I charge my Mournfang into his hounds. So I'll hit the hounds, and then I'll overrun into the horsemen, which I'm fine with, as long as the Skull Crushers can't hit me. So I slide over as far right as I can. So when I overrun, I'll maximize against the horseman, but he won't be able to get to me with the Skull Crusher. As you can see, it's too tight. It would be a double wheel, all that, and he could charge his BSB out, but that's up to him. And I fail to charge with the ogres there. Round 1, I had forgot to shoot with my Iron Blaster. Really silly. I meant to target the Slaughterer Brute. Round 2, I pull out and I shoot it at the Chariot, which you can see just has the card right in the top center there. Goes straight through and hits him. I do 3 wounds. Really fantastic. Off to a good start. Excited about that. And this is just some cool pictures of the army. Still not there painting, but I'm getting there. And the Warriors army off coming after me. And right now they do have a pretty good battle line on this flank, but it's definitely the weaker flank. And there's a few wild cards there. So I easily overrun, destroy, and then overrun the hounds. I've got a double buff with 2 times +1 toughness, and which is just awesome. Although I miscast with my level 2 of the Maw, and I'm down to a level 1, and I lose the toughness buff, which is a shame because now I have Troll Guts, and all the combats over here, I don't want to give them regeneration because he's got flaming on the Skull Crushers. Here's the 3 wounds I did on the Chariot, and it goes through into the Warriors, Marauders, but doesn't actually get to them or something. So Warriors turn 2, they move up like so, trying to get as far as they can. I had put my Saber Tusk over here next to his Warriors during my turn 2, so it just made him a little bit more awkward to get around to me, and he charges my Mournfang Cavalry with both his Chariot and his Slaughter Brute. You don't see the Marauder Horsemen anymore because this is I just focused all my attacks on them and thrashed them. And with my +2 toughness and my 2-up armor save and my 6-up parry save, he wasn't able to do a single wound to me. I'm a +1 strength. I just annihilated things. I win by with combat res, and he has to break. I pursue the Slaughter Brute and don't catch him and stop an inch away from the Chariot. Maybe that's wrong, but that's the way I played it. Ogre's turn 3. I bring the 2 Saber Tusks around so that he is kind of stuck here, and I'd be able to charge his Sorcerer if he doesn't move. I charge with my Mournfang, catch the Chariot, which it rolled 3 1s or something ridiculous like that. So I caught them, hit them, and reformed just to take a charge from the Mournfang and charge the what are they called? The bulls into the chaos spawn, which just didn't get far enough, and I've got 2 dice there. I get the bull charge, so 3d3 impact hits instead of 3, so that's gonna not go well. This is just an overview of this part. The Slaughter Brute is sitting on 3 wounds, so I took 2 off of him, and he's fleeing. And this is after combat. I've destroyed the chaos spawn just with impact hits. I'm ready to accept charges with my Iron Guts or my Skull Crushers from his my Mournfang Cavalry from his Skull Crushers. He could even try to slip through and get to my bulls, but you know, that's a really long charge, and there's some tough choices for him. And then on my right flank, I've got the Man-Eaters backing up 2 units of Noblar Trappers and the Saber-Tusker redirecting, so I'm not worried about my right flank at all right now, and I'm able to focus on my left flank. I shoot with my Iron Blaster directly at his BSB, who fails his Lookout Sir, and then I roll a 1, so no wounding there, which would have just been crushing for him, but it would have been so cool from my perspective. Warriors turn 3. His Skull Crushers opt to charge into my General's unit, which has my General and BSB in it, which is pretty, a lot at risk there, but that's also a whole lot of attacks. The first few rounds, I'm able to deny challenges from his BSB with my champion because I have the 3rd rank, so he focuses attacks on the unit, and the unit's pretty tough. He charged against these Noblar Trappers just to make something happen with this unit. He wanted to charge into the middle against my bulls, but he couldn't wheel because his unit was too close to him. So he tries here, and unfortunately he fails. That was a really risky gamble anyways, with all those models and all those dangerous terrain checks, and then overrunning into the other unit. But he rolls Snake Eyes to rally a Slaughter Brute, which is leadership 5, so that's pretty cool, and he turns them to face the Mournfang, so the Mournfang have just one option in my next turn, and I'm okay with that. And you can see how it looks in the back, whereas Warriors are sort of stuck there. So after combat, he's killed 1 Iron Gut and done 1 wound to another. I've killed and done a wound to the Skull Crushers. I think this one was a push. He did get off a spell that brought my weapon skill and, I don't know, strength or something down. Maybe not strength, but I'm having a hard time wounding him. So I think it's weapon skill and strength by 1. And so I've got to roll really high to hit him, or by 3. Yeah, it was by 3, so my strength is down to 2s and 3s, but something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I'm having a hard time hitting him, and so when I do get through, it's a big deal. Ogre's turn 4, I charge my Man-Eaters into his Marauders, and then I double charge block the Warriors, so that if he charges, he'll hit 1 Saber-Tusk and then have to overrun into the other Saber-Tusk, so won't be able to get into me for at least 2 combat turns, which is okay with me. I charge the Mournfang into the Slaughter Brute, which is also okay with me. And then bring my bulls around so I can rear charge the Skull Crushers if they survive much longer, or if I break or anything like that. The Iron Blaster moves over here, fires at the Chariot, which is sitting on 1 wound, and I rolled another 1 to wound. So he's been doing great. At least he's been accurate, but just it's not doing a whole lot of good. And then I bring up the Noblars just to, protect against the Chariot sneaking around behind me, or against his flank. If he charges me, I'll be able to flank charge the Chariot, etc., etc. So after combat, I've lost 1 more wound on an Iron Gut. I might have done 1 more wound, but I'm not able to do a whole lot of damage, but he's focusing a lot of his attacks on my BSB in general, and this is where we're a little worried about the other Trickster Shard, and I think I misplayed it, but with my high toughness, he's not doing a lot of wounds after his charge, and my Mournfang destroyed the Slaughter Brute right away. I take no wounds here in this combat, and deal out quite a few. Actually, here's the end of combat. I've actually lost 1 more unit, 1 more model, and I've killed 1 more of his models. So he's down to 1 Skull Crusher and I have 2 wounds remaining on my BSB. So he's doing some damage. I think I'm at rerollable my general's leadership here, so rerollable 10. I'm golden. I stick around. Steadfast. And then this is just an overview of what this flank looks like, where the Noblars are moving up. And Warrior's turn 4. He charges the chariot with 1 wound in. Kind of a suicide mission into the flank of these bulls, trying to do whatever wounds he can. And if he gets lucky, he can do a lot and take them out. He's in my flank, so I don't get any parry saves. And then he charges his general out into this unit. And we talked this one through, and he just said he needed to take the risk. But his idea was that he's got to send it out there. I warned him that this guy would not be steadfast, even though the rest of the unit, the bigger unit, would be. And that if he loses combat, which he's likely to, just by all the wounds I'm going to do, he's in big trouble. Perhaps he could have charged and just sacrificed it and gone after the saber tusks and not been held up by them. But he was getting a bit frustrated. He was having a lot of bad luck with rolls, and I would wiped out his whole left flank by now. We do get in a challenge with my butcher, and he does 2 wounds to my butcher. He kills 2 whole bulls. Ogres outright, but I have a whole rank, and I'm able to roll steadfast, and I'm in my general and BSB bubble, and so I then also roll to reform, and I'll get to charge with my Mournfang afterwards. And at the end of combat, I kill everything but the BSB. He's down to a wound or something, and then I run him down. He rolls lamentably. Well, he actually doesn't even get to roll because he's a BSB. He goes away because he breaks from combat. So I've got a couple banners hanging out with this unit. The unit's still mostly intact and just kind of angled here to see what happens. After this round of combat, I've done a whole lot more wounds to the Marauders. They're still sticking around. And he wasn't allowed to do double charges, so into the saber tusk. So on my turn 5, I flank charge the chariot. I'm going to get 3d3 impact hits. That's going to hurt. I move the iron guts over here, and those little chips just indicate that they're carrying some banners around. Magic has not been hugely effective with my level 2 Maw guy going down. He doesn't have a lot of spells to cast, and I'm just trying to buff this unit with Wisson's wild form, the Man-Eaters. So, which I do. I throw the saber tusk into the flank of the general. My thought here is that I'll be in a flank, but I won't get any attacks, so there's no way this guy can die, and I'll still get the charge and the flank bonus. So here I get Wisson's wild form off, which means that this unit is now even more awful to be against, and my character has a better chance of surviving. He's down to 2 wounds. And so now he's toughness 5 or 6. I can't remember. I think he's toughness 6. So yeah, with the Wisson's buff, and I'll be able to be striking at tough strength 5, so I can maybe hurt the Warriors general. These guys are just moving all over. They're coming in to close, so they can, depending on what happens, my next turn be able to charge, and I crush the chariot, so they just reform, and it's going to hurt for the Warriors going forward, but it's been a good game for the Ogre so far. A lot of rolls going my way, like this one. In the combat, he does only 1 wound to me, and I save it on my parry save, which is just it's demoralizing, to be honest. So I do some more wounds. He rolls and flees from combat with the general, but I fail to catch him with the saber tusk. And I'd stop at his unit. So they're sitting there just the way they are. And I've taken 1 wound to 1 Man-Eater, but I'm just decimating this unit in front of me. This is what the board looks like at the end of Ogre's turn 5. His general's behind everything. Should rally in the next turn, but he has no BSB. His whole flank is caved, and it's just these 2 units left, and I'm directing my stuff at him and coming after him pretty good here. So Warriors turn 5, he charges my saber tusk. He rallies his general, and we're still stuck into it. So I'm still buffed up with my man-eaters, and now I get to direct the attacks of my character onto the unit as well. With all the stomps, it's just brutal. I'll be able to decimate them. This is just the rest of the unit of my units ready to go on my turn 6. Incidentally, we don't get to a turn 6. We skipped a turn, but not really anything was going to be able to happen because I'd just be able to redirect the warriors the next turn, and because they kill the Saber Tusk, they're going to reform, but I can just put the other Saber Tusk in the way and reform. I'll destroy the Marauders probably 3 times over, and so I get to go next, so it'd end up being a more brutal victory. But at the end of this combat, I trash this unit. He breaks and runs away. I don't catch them. The first combat, actually, I forgot to mention that he had to challenge with a sorcerer, and I killed the sorcerer with my man-eater champion, so I get an extra 50 points for that, for a champion killing a character, which is pretty imbalanced and unfair. And at the end of the game, this is what it looks like, where he actually, I can't remember, he might have stayed and not fled, but I'm pretty sure he did with his banner down next to my guys, and we just didn't move it. If we had played this through, I'd get to bring all the rest of the guys to bear and redirect the warriors, and it just would have not changed a whole lot. It all ended up being a really interesting game, a great learning experience. It stinks when you get out deployed and outplayed, maneuvered, and then the rolls don't go for you, which makes it all that much tougher. And all I could say is that I empathize, and that it's really tough playing with Wood Elves for sure. And just in general, the Slaughter Brute just looks so great, so I thought I'd throw in a few extra pictures at the end, so you guys can feast your eye on this beauty. It's worth having this in the list just because it's so cool, having nothing to do with the effectiveness of this model or anything. So in the end, a massive victory of the Ogres. I think some of the points were that the warriors were too spread out, particularly with the BSB in general, been the opposite side, and they really need to, focus on having their big anvil and solid units in the middle, and then building the synergy out of that. Especially with no shooting and minimal casting, Jeff was extra stretched to make it all happen. So, it was a great learning experience. I think next game we're going to try to go through step by step and really make it work. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.